For as long as I can remember, comic book fandom online has always had the ideal fan castings for any given role. I still remember in the early days of the internet, I was still in the single digits. I was using the internet, I went online, and I saw fan castings for the upcoming Spider-Man film. When Tobey Maguire was cast, it was complete outrage in the forums. Yes guys, it existed, and yes, people were very upset that Sam Raimi, this untalented director who's best known for cult classics that never went big, was going to ruin Spider-Man along with Tobey Maguire. It seems like we just repeat— oh my god, it's like poetry, it rhymes. You guys already know how fan castings work. Somebody with a following says, this is the perfect casting, just based on look. And then from that point on, it takes on a life of its own because everybody else says, well, this is it because their internet hero or somebody that they've seen online said, this has to be the casting. Then internet scoopers and people come in there saying, oh, they're definitely meeting. So the expectations continue to rise, and then ultimately, when you get a casting that's not that, there's tons of backlash. This happens time and time again. It's going to keep happening, and that's just how it goes. Recently, though, one of the people over at Marvel Studios decided to talk a little bit about this, specifically in regards to what exactly fan castings can do in terms of expectations, damage, and the final result. So this comes from the head casting director and producer, Sarah Finn. And she kind of approaches it in regard to obviously having it be her job, but also finding the best person for the role. And this comes directly from This Week in Marvel, the podcast. And what's revealed is that essentially this many times can actually kind of throw the studio in for a loop. When they're going out there and they're looking at castings, well, there's constantly this fan base that's literally about to knock down your door and go after you if you don't cast the perfect casting choice. And she says that that's sort of this pressure that's built up upon them and this responsibility, and then there's this passionate fan base that will not accept anything that's not their choice. And they're very vocal about it, and sometimes this can actually hinder the casting process because of what they're saying, what they're looking for, what they need from an actor, and of course, which will ultimately lead to tons of backlash. And she did say that sometimes they just outright tell people, we're heading in a different direction, so they kind of know what to expect. And hopefully that sort of sets, a tone and an expectation. But obviously, we know it doesn't. And a couple things, obviously, that should be brought up are, the common castings you keep hearing about. Oh, Daniel Radcliffe, he's going to play Wolverine, or Bryce Dallas Howard is going to do this or that, Sue Storm or director or whatever, right? And it ends up becoming this thing where even if you didn't want it, you suddenly hear it, you go, sure, why not? And it just becomes its own thing. And essentially what she said is, sometimes this can lead them down a good path, aka, John joining Multiverse of Madness and playing Mr. Fantastic for that iteration. But ultimately, they just hope that the fans accept their choice because they're making the best one in regards to what they're doing with that project.